Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a very interesting shield, one that you may not know even exists because it's kind of rare. It is called the Spirit Ward Shield. It has some very interesting effects on it, and I think as we go over it, you guys will be like, that's actually kind of interesting. I could maybe build a character around this. It also has a very pretty appearance, as you can see. Just a very cool looking appearance. In fact, you know what? This is Fashion Diablo. We need to go take a look at the appearance on the main screen. Just look at how beautiful that is with the blue horns and the black and the gold, and it just looks really cool in my opinion. Just a very awesome looking shield. I do think those horns in the back could be kind of a detriment to you, though, and I'd probably end up stabbing myself in the throat with one of those, which would probably not be good. Let's see here. So the Spirit Ward shield has some very interesting effects, and one of them is the ability to cast Fade on yourself. Now, you may be familiar with casting Fade on yourself through the Treachery Armor, which is a very common source, and the Treachery Armor does have a higher level Fade than this. There is also another item in the game that gives the Fade proc, which is the Last Wish rune word. But this is one of them that can be worn on your shield hand, obviously, whereas the Treachery Armor has to be worn on your body armor slot, and the Last Wish is so ridiculously expensive that most people never obtain one. The Spirit Ward shield is an interesting choice for maybe somebody who would like to have Fade in a different form. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice that it has some pretty nice defense at 478, and the ethereal version is 719 defense, which is certainly not bad. We also have a chance to block of 75% on both of these. Now, it is important to note that it's actually over the cap. So we have a chance to block of 84% for Paladins, 79% for Amazon, Assassin, and Barbarian. 79% is, of course, over the cap, which is why it reads as 75%, because the cap is 75%. However, if you are a Sorceress, Necromancer, and Druid have a cap of 74% with this shield, so it is a relatively nice shield as far as blocking is concerned. But we do have a variance in the blocking because the effect on the shield, which has a 30% increased chance of blocking, does vary by 10%. So it can be 74% for Paladins to 84%. It can be 69 to 79% for Amazon's Assassin and Barbarians, and it can be 64 to 74% for Druid, Necromancer, and Sorceress. So it's important to keep that in mind. We also have a relatively high strength requirement on this of 185, which is pretty darn high, a lot higher than the 156 that you would need for a Spirit Monarch shield, for instance. It's just using that as a reference point. We also have a level requirement of level 68 on this, which is a relatively high level. Quite honestly, this is an endgame shield. Level 68 is getting into Hell difficulty. You've probably killed Baal or on your way to kill Baal in Hell difficulty by then. If not, you're getting close. You've probably killed Diablo or you're working toward him. So it's in general, it's an endgame shield. We also have the 5% chance to cast level 8 Fade when struck. So a 5% chance to cast when struck is not an amazingly high number, but it actually does proc a lot more than you would think. You can also proc this just by simply standing in the fire. So if I were to maybe go to Hell difficulty, and I just wanted to see if I can get this to proc, I could go to the River of Flame. There's a bunch of fires here that are relatively easy to stand in, very, very easy to get to. You would just stand in them until you would get the Fade proc. Now, one of the ways that you could know that you've got the Fade proc is you could look at your resistances. So one of the things that Fade does is it gives you a rather nice resistance bonus to all your resistances. You get a 71% curse duration for having Fade up. You get a 50% to all resistances. which is going to be added on top of all your normal numbers. As you can see, my resistances just went up to 75%, 75%, 60%, 70, which is very nice, so a nice 50% bonus. We also get a duration of 204 seconds, which we could divide out on a calculator to get our exact like minutes. So 204 divided by 60 is 204 divided by 60 is 3.4 minutes. So basically 3 minutes and 40 seconds, which is not bad at all. 3 minutes and 40 seconds is a pretty long duration. And Fade also provides a physical damage reduction of 1% per level. So at level 8, we are getting a very nice 8% physical damage reduction, which can be seen right here, because we have 28%, which is coming from various pieces of equipment. But if we take off the armor, you'll notice that we go down to 8%. So we have 8% and 20% from another source, so we're getting 28% physical damage reduction, which is very, very nice. That can actually counter, by the way, amplify damage and decrepifies negative physical damage reduction. So it's very nice to have that extra bonus. Now, it is important to note that because it is a on-struck effect, sometimes it can be a little difficult to get to proc because you do have to be struck. But keep in mind, and I've had this argument with quite a few people, that there are a lot of abilities and spells and things in the game which can proc on struck effects, even when you would think that they wouldn't. I have been able to proc a lot of on-struck effects, and I do so with things like lightning, chain lightning, fireballs, firebolts, and there is a lot of abilities in the game that will bypass your defense and your block chance and will still proc the effects. So it's important to remember that when you're thinking about on-struck effects. Everybody always jumps the gun, and it's like, but if I have a high defense, high block chance build, and I have an on-struck effect, it's never going to go off, and that's a lie. It'll go off all the time. I've tested this with Medusa's Gaze quite extensively, and Medusa's Gaze has a on-struck effect, and I'm running a Paladin with 30,000 defense and also 75% block chance, and the lower resistance curse still goes off all the time. Now, granted, it's a little bit higher percent proc chance on the Medusa's Gaze than it is on this, but lower resist is also something that you need to go off more often than Fade. Fade having a 3.5 minute duration, as you can see, it is still up. You only need it to go off every once in a while to refresh the Fade effect. On this shield, we also have some other nice effects. We have the 25% faster block rate, which is definitely very nice. That means that we're going to be able to block faster, and that is certainly going to be extremely useful for a non-paladin character, because non-paladin characters tend to have rather poor block rate, and they need that increase. What we talked about earlier, the 30% increased chance of blocking does vary by 10%, so it's 10 to 30. It would be kind of sad if you found one of these and you didn't find the 30% increased block rate, because that's a little bit of an important stat if you're going for capped blocking. We also have all resistances on here of plus 40, and it does vary from 30 to 40. So this is very interesting because not only does the shield give you 50 all res, essentially from Fade, but it gives you another 40, 30 to 40 in the form of on the actual shield. So you can theoretically have, 50 plus 40 on the shield, so you're 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So 90% all resistances with this shield. And Mr. Neat, I'm going to have to ask you to come out of there because you're misbehaving. You hear him kecking at me? He's mad at me because I'm telling him he's stop. I don't know what he's doing in there, but it's really weird. It's weird. You're going to stay out here for a minute. He does not listen. So we have a total of 90% all res on this, and you can theoretically increase it even further. So if I wanted to put an rune in here, an rune is, I believe it's 22 all res in a shield, or we could find a very nice 15 all res jewel with some other effects on it, or you could just simply put a diamond in there for the 19 all res. And you would have a massive amount of resistances that could literally carry you through most of the game. Now, resistances are not the only thing you could do with this shield, but if you could imagine, 90 plus 22 is 112. So 112 all resistances just coming from your shield, and that's pretty darn amazing. On top of that, you also get the curse reduction and the physical damage reduction, both of which are very, very nice. It's important to note also that that curse reduction does reduce the duration of beneficial shrines, because shrines are classified as curses. If you've never actually had a shrine before get overwritten by a curse, and a curse get overwritten by a shrine, well, there you go. That is how you know that they are basically the same thing. So not only do we have all these massive, really nice defensive abilities on this shield, but we also have another defensive ability in the form of cold absorption. So the shield provides you with 6 to 11 cold absorb. Cold absorb is an ability to basically take any damage that comes in from cold and absorb it to your health pool. So how this works is let's say, for instance, we had an ability that was coming in that was doing 100 damage in cold damage. The cold absorb would take 11 points off of the 100, bringing it down to 89. Once the damage is at 89, it would then attack our health orb. It would deal 89 damage to our health orb, and then it would heal us for another 11. Because it's not just taking that 11 damage away, it's taking it away and using it to heal us with it. It is important to note, however, that you have to have enough HP to take the 89 damage. So it's not going to heal you before you get hit. It's going to heal you after you get hit. And this is actually a way that absorb kind of gets bypassed sometimes in PvP. Because if you manage to deal enough damage and the person cannot take the initial brunt hit, the absorption, of course, cannot heal them because they're dead. But, you know, looking at this shield objectively, it just has so many good things going for it. And it is unfortunate that they added in the Paladin-only shields, because if they hadn't added in the Paladin-only shields, it could be a very interesting choice. And speaking of Paladin-only, I have to talk about the Smite damage on this shield, which I almost forgot to mention. So this is a elite shield. It is a ward shield, and the Smite damage on ward shields is 11 to 35. It's not the greatest. It's the higher damage Smite shields are like the spiked shields and the skull, you know, like the bone shields, and of course the Paladin only shields. The ward shield is not one of those higher Smite damage items. So an extremely defensive shield, but where could we potentially find this extremely defensive shield? And that's a really good question, because I feel like most people probably never even see this thing because it's that rare. I've actually been looking one for a while, ever since I originally heard about it, and still have not found one. I would like to get my hands on one just for testing purposes, but of course I can always test it here. But let's go over to Silo's Pen and let's look at potentially where we could find this. And where is my window? Bink. There we go. So here we go. We've got a probability of Hell Andariel, 1 in 321 chance with 400% magic find. Oh, kind of surprised I haven't found it yet with such a good chance from Hell Andariel. And is this really the right one? No, it's not the right one. I was Spirit Ward, not the Ward. I was like, those numbers don't make any sense whatsoever. Of course, there's so many different Ward shields. Bink, bink, bink. Spirit, where are you at, Spirit Ward? There you are. One more time. There we go. That's more like it. That's what I remember. So Baal in Hell is a 1 in 2,071 chance. Neelathak is 1 in 15,770. Diablo in Hell is 1 in 16,750. So it does seem like this is an item that's probably going to drop mainly from Baal. And if we take a look at our super uniques, you can see we have pretty crappy probabilities on all these super uniques. I mean, we're talking about the best is like 1 in 15,974, which is Neelathak. Frozenstein, Pindleskin, 1 in 17,000. Thresh Socket, same thing. I mean, and then it just gets progressively worse from there. 1 in 24,000 from Doc Farron. Akmil the Cursed, all these are relatively awful chances, and it just kind of gets even worse from there. I'm kind of surprised that Eldritch even has a chance to drop this item because his chance is so ridiculously bad at 1 in 192,990. So I guess if you manage to get it from Eldritch, Shank, or Hephaesto, you've pretty much hit the lottery there. It does look like Pindleskin might be the best choice for quick and easy farming, but Bale is definitely the best choice for just simply, you know, the best probability. Of course, he takes a lot longer to kill than Pindle. Alright guys and gals, I hope you enjoyed this episode of unique items on the Spirit Ward shield. And if you're interested in getting your hands on one of these, good luck. It's going to be a little bit difficult to come by. I can certainly see working this shield into some builds just simply because it's so defensive. But at the end of the day, resistances aren't really the end-all be-all of every single build. And a lot of the times, you can usually work in resistances in other ways. And do you really want to rely on Fade for the ability to, you know, protect your character? Although it is nice to have that as an overprotection. Keep in mind that you can equip this shield, get the Fade effect, and then of course you can unequip it. But the Fade on Treachery is higher level and a little bit easier to get your hands on than this one. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and